Peace, family, per usual. Black love, black pride, black power. You have to know yourself, to love your people. And don't get mad, get right. That's how I start on my YouTube videos. With that being said, I've already did my disclaimer on my Instagram live feed. So I don't have to do it again. YouTube, I know it's been a minute, but your girl is back. Talking about some things that I really feel like we shouldn't even have to be talking about. Before I begin, I want to bring everyone's attention to my fly ass crop top designed by yours truly, Weed, Wine, and Watermelon, your favorite auntie's signature recipe. You know how we do out here. If you have not already, please be sure to follow my business Instagram. That's yo favorite auntie Jize. That's YOFAVORITE.AUNTYJYS. And make sure you click on the link in that description box as well, so you can get you one along with other fun designs and stuff I've come up with as well. So the topic of conversation at this present point in time, first off, I want to say shout out to everybody that's already on my live. Glad to have someone to talk to. But the topic that we're going to discuss is why I feel like it is anti-progressive or nonsensical to consider certain groups of people who consider themselves to be pro-black and conscious groups of people as such, because it literally is a contradiction and it doesn't make sense to include those under those types of people. Now, I would like to start off by kind of saying to me what my definition of being a conscious Black African person is. And that is someone who is not under the indoctrination of religion, period, especially those given to us by our oppressors and our captors. It is also someone who is a free thinker, someone who may participate in forms of African spirituality, whether it be voodoo or Orisha or the different spiritual practices of West and Central and South Africa and whatnot. Basically anything that is not given to you by your oppressors, and that is not a part of an organized monotheistic religion. Also, to be a conscious person is to realize holistically and be holistically conscious of who you are, inside, outside, physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, cognitively, geographically, and all of that. You have to, in order to be a conscious person, you have to be aware of all of those things. And then also, of course, that means by default recognizing, that your connection to your ancestors and the necessity of understanding that relationship, the universe, nature, all of that. So to me, that is what it means to be conscious. To be pro-Black means that you have to be for the progressive, and progression of and independence of African people, diasporically, globally. You cannot be, in order to be pro-Black, you have to one, identify as African and as a person of African descent. You also have to recognize other African people, diasporically and continental, as your people as well. And you have to be for the united progression of our best advancement towards independence and all that other kind of stuff. In order to be revolutionary, you have to be willing to do what it takes to overthrow the current systems of oppression, keeping us as African people down, and thus keeping us from reaching our greatest potential. You cannot be pro-Black and not be revolutionary. You can't be, oh, I'm not revolutionary, but I'm pro-Black. Then you're not pro-Black, because in order to be pro-Black, you have to have a revolutionary spirit, mind, concept, heart, all of that, to be able to do what would be necessary for Black people to reach our pro-Black goals, which is self-sufficiency, independence, self-governance, and all that kind of stuff. None of that stuff's going to come without revolution and without revolutionary people, mentality, and thinking. Whew. With that being said, now that we understand on what basis we're talking about consciousness, pro-Blackness, and revolutionariness, now we're going to talk about how you absolutely cannot be a Moor, a Hebrew Israelite, or NOI or Islam, or whether you're, NOI Muslim, or whether you're, how you doing, sis? Whether you're NOI Muslim or whether you're just, straight from the Arab tradition of Islam or whatever, you cannot be any of those three things. We're just focusing on those three things because those are the three groups of people that are accepted as conscious people when they are absolutely not conscious people holistically as a group. So you cannot be Muslim, NOI, or how you doing, sis? Good to see you. You cannot be Muslim, NOI, or Moorish if you claim to be pro-black, conscious, and revolutionary. So let's break it down. We already done broke down how in order to be conscious, you have to, one, be a free thinker, and two, you have to be holistically conscious and aware of yourself as an entity, holistically. So mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally, cognitively, geographically, historically, no matter what it is, you have to be holistically aware of that. When you are religious, the doctrines literally limit your capacity for rational thoughts. You cannot be a free thinker and believe in a religious doctrine, because if you were a free thinker, you'd realize how ridiculous it would be to believe in a religious doctrine. Okay? When you are a conscious person, you realize that God is not outside of yourself. God, you are an extension and an individual manifestation of such. So when you are religious, you cannot be conscious because your concept of God is completely fucked up and given to you by the people who are oppressing you and subjugating you to inferiority. So that's just common sense there. When it comes to being pro-black, these groups of people cannot be pro-black because in each individual doctrine and group thought has their individual reasons that kind of intermingle and stuff. So I'll just go down the line. You cannot be a Moor and be pro-black because, as we all know, Moors do not consider themselves to be black. And Moors do not identify as African, which is retarded, because if someone says they're a Moor and you ask them where they come from and they say Morocco, and you ask them where's Morocco, their answer is going to be Africa. Now, is Morocco currently heavily colonized and all the way mixed up with the Arabs? Absolutely. And you know what? These people out here claiming to be Moors are not the original niggas from over there. If we're going to be 100 about it, those original niggas have been diluted and watered down several hundred years before Europeans showed up in Morocco. And that's not where they were dragging most of us from anyway. So that's just the tea on that. So you can't be pro-black if you don't even if you don't consider yourself to be a black or African person in the first place. Some Moors by default cannot be pro-black, and that's just one reason. Hebrew Israelites also, they identify as Hebrews, not as black people, and definitely not as African people. Hebrew Israelites consider African people to be their enemies, which is fucking retarded, especially because they're African people. But I can go into the psychological issues and the subconscious issues onto why black people choose to believe in that bullshit, that extremist black Christian group or whatever. But sticking to this particular point, yeah, you know what, sis? I'm gonna read this comment real quick. She said, which is why I think the term should be Pan-African, because pro-black is being hijacked by any black person that is proud to be black. You know what? And I definitely think Pan-African should be used more often as well. But I think it's our responsibility as actual pro-black people to put our foot down and regulate this shit. We cannot allow just any and everybody to throw on our jacket. Hence, these non-pro-black people calling themselves pro-black and not being checked by actual pro-black people. So then we're literally giving them the shit. Back to, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so Hebrew Israelites, they don't identify as black or African either. You can't be pro-black if you don't think you black. You can't be pro-black if you're not pro-African, because black people, even if we're just talking about black people here in the States, they are African people. And if African people are your enemies, then pro-black people can't fuck with you. And also, pro-black people are by default Pan-African and identify as being African. So for you to be a Hebrew Israelite and not fuck with Africans, then you're telling me that you don't fuck with me because I'm African. And there's no ridiculous book of fantasy to make me believe that I'm not African, period. So, and then down to the NOI. The NOI can't be pro-black, even though they put up this really good front. Ooh, the NOI put up this really good front of pretending to be with the T and with the business. But ultimately, the NOI believe that our subjugate, our everything that we're going through is ordained by God. And because of their religious beliefs, they often discourage us from taking any real action towards benefiting ourselves in ways that would, disenfranchise Europeans. For example, we've got Farrakhan out here defending the Jews and calling them their brother type T's. We've got Elijah Muhammad was never worth it. All these kind of things, and also just the fact that the NOI literally teaches people that this stuff, this beautiful stuff that grows out of our hair, these antennas to the universe, is a curse. You literally have a group of people who believe a doctrine and an ideology attached to that doctrine that says that the beautiful things about us that make us uniquely beautiful as African people is a curse from God for disobedience. I wish I would believe somebody telling me that my hair is nappy because we ate peanuts and were disobedient to God. I'm not here for it. I'm sorry, I'm not. But Black people, who literally still deal with self-hate issues and things like this, it's very appealing and attractive to them to hide behind these religious groups guising as consciousness, because they're still dealing with undealt with self-hate and things of that nature as well. I'm on braided Jeff, y'all, but it's still cute though. And don't let the shrinkers fool you. Your girl cropped out. But back to the point. So NOI, you cannot literally teach anti-blackness and self-hate and then consider yourself to be pro-black, and especially not revolutionary. You're giving people all these tools but telling them don't use it against the white man. We got to wait for God to come back for all of that, because our punishment and our subjugation and everything that we deal with as African people is ordained by God, because God put the white man in power to teach us a lesson for whatever it was we did that nobody seems to remember for these past couple of thousands of years. And I say thousands because the Arabs colonized Africa first, and the harshest, and still to this day, with Islam. So for them, it's a couple of racks. The Islamic faith has done a lot more than we know to African people. It's been a lot harder on us, and has enslaved us for a lot longer, and it's still to this day enslaving us and doing these harsh things for a lot more intense and a lot harsher than any of the Christian beliefs. Does not mean that we should just be Christian and it's all gonna be okay. No, what it means is fuck all that shit. All right. So now to break down the tea. We've already gone over why each group of people individually, by default, with just one major example, cannot be pro-black or revolutionary. And we've already gone over why you cannot be religious and conscious at the same time, which was to go by each group. The Moors are mostly Christian, cannot by default be conscious. And that's just if we want to keep it simple and if we want to keep it surface. Now, I can go on for about 30 years or so on why holistically, as individual groups, their doctrines and their teachings are toxic to Black people. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it tight. I'm going to keep it simple, wrapped up. I know our attention spans are trash. About this time. So I'm gonna just go through each group and talk about a couple of key points on things that they believe in that is toxic to African people as a global whole. I'm going to start with the Hebrew Israelites because they're the easiest to start with, because there's just so much wrong with it. Yeah. Oh, thank you. I feel like when you at church and the pastor's like, oh, I don't want to hold you up, and you're like, preach, go ahead, pastor. But Hebrew Israelites, starting off with them. First things first, any doctrine that teaches you that you are closer to Europeans than you are to African is toxic to pro-Black African people. Because Black people are Africans, and in order to be pro-Black, you have to accept the fact that you're African and then want to build and create and gain independence and self-sufficiency and stuff for Black/African people. So if you don't even believe that you're an African, then by default you can't believe that you're Black, because Black people are African people, mostly considered to be diasporically African people. Hmm? Okay. In the fridge, yeah. Yeah. Tell her to eat half at a time. Tell her to eat half at a time.
That's what I was just saying. I'm gonna do half and wait.
Yeah, because that's concentrated.
That's what she said.
Yeah, that's the kicker.
Okay.
Yeah, so anything that is anti-African and anti-Blackness, by default, you cannot be pro-Black. Period. So also in the Hebrew Israelite doctrine, they believe that our subjugation is ordained by God, just like the NOI do. If your subjugation is ordained by God, then you have taken your own power into freeing yourself out of the equation, and you are going to be complacent and just deal with the shit that we're given as a people, because by default you feel like there's nothing you can do about it anyway, and it's impossible to be pro-Black and do those things. Also, Hebrew Israelites believe that Hispanic people, which aren't even a race of people, or that Latinx people are our brothers or sisters in this case. Now, this is just some bullshit that people done concocted up so that they can continue to mix and continue to get away with mixing and whatnot in the name of being for the people. And it's some goddamn bullshit, okay? As an Afro-Latina who is Garifuna and who has been outside of America to really see what the difference between us and them is, and what goes on also in these other countries and all that other kind of stuff, I can tell you right now, those people are not our brothers. They are not. Okay? The African people over there, they know they're African. The Black people over there, they know they Black, they know they're African. And the ones who are not know that they are not, okay? Speaking from anybody, just look at my page, look at my channel, look at all my stuff, and you could tell that I know the tea, because I'm really about it. I really do travel. I really do. I just got moved back from living with my family out there in Central America, in 3 major Central American countries: Guatemala, Honduras, and Belize. And trust me when I say there is a difference between an African person who was born over there, an indigenous person who was born over there, and a Spanish person who was born over there. When I'm over there, they don't see me as a Latina. They don't see me as a Hispanic. They don't see me as an indigenous. They see me as an African. They see me as Black. And not just because I was born in the States, because you can't tell the difference between me and other Black people out there unless I decide to not speak with an accent. And that's how you know you Black, when there's no question about it. That's how you know you African, when there's no question about it. Now, we do have some African people out there who, for other genetic reasons, or, may not, who may be Black passing or whatever, where you might have to ask a bit of a question here. But for the majority of Black African people, you know you Black/African, because when you look at you, there's no question. So for Hebrew Israelites to say that Latinx people, Hispanic people, whatever this fictitious race of people is, are our brothers and are closer to us than African people, then to turn around and hate African people as a unit, and then to turn around and say that we're closer to Europeans than African people, and then to turn around and say that our conditions and all that kind of stuff is ordained by God, there's no way you could be conscious and pro-Black, especially not revolutionary. You can call white people crackers all. This go to the NOI and to the Hebrews. Like, y'all can call white people crackers all day. You can call them Neanderthals and talk to them crazy and yell at them all you want to, but you ain't really gonna pop off and do nothing. You refuse to, because ultimately, no matter how mad you may get and how much shit you may be capable of talking, when it boiled down to it, according to you, you gotta wait on your God to come and take care of this problem, and God is outside of you, because you're not conscious. Because if you were conscious, you'd have enough sense to realize that no one can save us but ourselves, and that we are extensions and individual manifestations of God. But then you'd have to accept the fact that you're African, and you don't want to do that because no, you would rather. I can't, because it's stupid. It's just really stupid. When you have common sense and you think critically and logically, you realize how stupid all this stuff is. Like I said, it shouldn't even be a discussion. It shouldn't, but people don't want to think, and that's the problem. And that's what I'm here for. For those who do want to think, but like me, want come from a place where we've just been shoved with the toxic, thoughts and thought processes and stuff since before birth. We've been preconditioned since before our mother's wombs and stuff. But for those who are looking for, things that make sense, and for someone to say some real shit, you done found her. So you're welcome. I'm able to talk about these things how I do and the way that I do and with knowledge that I have is because I've been all of there before. I was not raised in a conscious home or family. I did not I just come out the cooch like this. It's been a lot of life and a lot of journey and a lot of lessons and stuff that had to happen for me to get to where I am. And I do what I do for our people to keep other people and also other young African people to keep our future from having to go through the same bullshit. So that's why I nip shit in the bud. And whenever I see things going left or someone comes to me on some, I can already tell by the first couple of sentences, nope, not here for it. Now you got two options. Either you are going to decide that you are really working towards higher consciousness and being the best you can be, and thus you decide to receive what I say. It won't let me wave back, but I do wave back, young Fetty. You can either decide to take what I say, ingest it, meditate on it, and find out that just using common sense and logic that I'm telling the truth, or you can decide to continue to believe in some bullshit that requires you not to think critically, that requires you not to have no damn sense in order to blindly believe something. The choice is yours, red pill or blue pill. But I'm not here to coddle nobody, and I'm not here to go back and forth with people who are on some bullshit and want me to join them on that bullshit, because I'm not going backwards, as I explained in the beginning of my live. And Moors, we ain't forgot about y'all. Ooh, but buddy with the crack. Definitely. I just can't with the Moors, because the main appeal that black people have to the Hebrew Israelites and the Moors is this false sense of actually having some kind of power or some kind of freedom. And I say false sense because it is an absolutely false sense. The Moors, majority of them are Christian. Before they became Moors, before they went and civilized Europe. First off, how you gonna be pro-black and your biggest claim to fame is literally training and then releasing the cancer to the planet onto black people? There is absolutely no pride or honor in being a Moor. You mean the people that went up and grabbed these Neanderthals out of the mountains and then washed them up, slept with a lot of them, civilized them, all that kind of stuff, and then gave them the tools and stuff that they needed to come into Africa and destroy it further than what the Arabs are already doing? You mean the people that showed Columbus and all of them how to get to the Americas and then function up? You mean the people that helped them snatch that was Moors snatching Africans from tribes and stuff, stealing them, not just prisoners of wars and stuff, but going and snatching them up and kidnapping them. That was the Moors doing that shit, working with them crackers. Okay, that wasn't other just regular African people. And granted, there were other African tribes and stuff who didn't quite realize, what they were getting the people into. They're like, oh, these are just prisoners. Weren't they? It was a whole different thing. And plus, niggas was being lied to. We was definitely being lied to and played. So we're not going to sit here and just pretend like none of those things were the case. But you can't sit there and claim to be a conscious pro-black person if, one, you don't believe you're black, which I already touched on. That Moors don't believe that they're black. They don't believe to be African, and they think that anything associated with blackness is negative. All of that is clearly European logic, because when you look into Africa, pre-colonial Africa and Western African civilizations, you see that black is anything but negative. And then to be African is anything. So you're saying other tribes weren't Moors. Here we go with the 80 million different spellings of the word as well. What I'm saying is that the people claiming to be Moors here in America today, one, are not Moors. Two, if you are, then you're inherently a traitor. And three, you cannot be pro-black and conscious if you are a Moor. And I'm saying that Moors cannot be pro-black because they are literally, their historic legacy is of traitors, and they don't believe that they're black. And if you don't believe you're black, then and also a lot of them don't believe that they're African, which is just idiotic by following a simple common logical of common sense. Okay. So where was I? Hebrew Israelites can't be pro-black and conscious because they believe that non-black people are closer to us than African people, and they believe that our subjugation stuff is ordained by God, and they also believe that white people are closer to us than African people. Hebrew Israelites cannot be pro-black and conscious because they are black extremist Christians, because they also believe that, oh, I already said Hebrew Israelites. Okay, so NOI cannot be pro-black and conscious because one, they are still religious. You cannot be religious and conscious. Two, they believe that our subjugation and all that kind of stuff is also ordained by God. And three, they preach very, as a collective whole, they preach and believe in very anti African things and very stuff such as self-hate. Also, if you are religious, you can't be pro-black because then you'd have to be pro-African, and then that means that all the things that African people were doing before we were colonized and imperialized and all that kind of negative stuff by the Arabs with Islam is deemed, you know, basically devil shit by the NOI. Can't happen. Can't have no African spirituality and be religious. So that's by default. And the Moors are not pro-black or conscious because one, they still believe many of them, not 100% of them, but as a unit, most of them are Christian. Yeah. Oh man, I'm not even going to racial guru. That's not what this conversation is about, but another time, I promise. But Moors cannot be pro-black or conscious because one, they do not believe themselves to be black and they think everything black is negative. Two, they do not believe in overthrowing the system established here, and globally they believe in being an exception to it or finding a place in it. And then three, Moors do not identify as African. The NOI is not associated with Arab Muslims. They believe that black man is God too. Okay, yes. I know the NOI is not associated with Arab Muslims directly. That's like Hebrew Israelites saying that they're not Christian. You still believe in the same doctrine. You still follow the same book. You still hold the same religious leaders. And then honestly, the NOI, I don't want to say I want to say it's worse for black people because it comes as that wolf in sheep's clothing. But the NOI is definitely directly more toxic to black people here in the States because Arab Muslims and, you know, the rest of the people who just follow Islam, no matter what their race is, they're not over here in the US directly causing black people the drama that they are. They're over there in Africa doing that shit, but I'm talking about here in the States. The NOI is much more toxic because also, even though Islam already teaches anti-blackness on the low, the NOI just straight out comes and do it. Like, y'all major leader is sitting here talking about, and I expressed this earlier in this video, about how our, you know what I'm gonna do, y'all, actually, because I'm starting to repeat myself in my YouTube video, and I said I wouldn't. So give me like 2 seconds to close out this YouTube video, and then I'll come back and continue to talk to y'all about it. But y'all got the basic gist and all that kind of stuff here on why it's just completely nonsensical and irrational, and we should start. Oh, last thing for the YouTube video, we as actual truly pro-black conscious and revolutionary people, we need to start regulating this shit. We can't let just anybody join our club. You cannot say that you're pro-black and for the advancement of African people if you are allowing people who are literally for the opposite of that to be on the team. We got to have this Harriet Tubman mentality that anybody in the way can get it, okay? Just because not all skin folk is kinfolk. We already know this. I used to say up until very, very recently that I'm here for all black people, period. And argumentative friend of mine said, well, then that means that you have to be here for the Hebrew Israelites and the Moors and all that. I had to put a pin in that. I had to clarify. There are terms and conditions. I'm here for all Black people who realize and want to be a Black person. Okay? Um, and again, when I say Black, I'm talking diasporically and continentally African. If you African, if you are of African descent, if you've got, in my opinion, I'm a little more lenient than some. If you've got 75% or more of African blood and DNA, you on a team, and I'm here for you. But if you are a Black person who hates other Black people, can't fuck with you, Hebrew Israelites. If you are a Black person who is on some super self-hatred type teas and I can't seem to get you right, can't fuck with you for now. Moors, if you and Nation of Islam, if you are a Black person who is anti-African, anti-Black, and don't even throw the religion on top of that. If you are a Black person on all that kind of shit, I can't fuck with you. You are not on the team. And me trying to do things and be sensitive of you and be sensitive of what you want. And that's the thing. We have to also remember, as pro-Black people, as a unit, allowing these people to identify as pro-Black and trying to include them in pro-Black and conscious spaces means that we have to make room for and adjustments for their goals, their values, their principles, this, that, and the third. But ultimately, the goals and the this and the that and all those kind of principles and stuff that are valued by Moors, Hebrew Israelites, and Islamic people who follow Islam or NOI base members and whatnot, it's detrimental. It's directly detrimental to the goals of pro-Black, pro-African, pro-Pan-African people. We will never, ever move forward or get anywhere or make any progress if we keep the people who are anti the progress that we're looking for close to us and claim them as our own. People want to talk about, conscious people can never come together, we can never organize. No, the problem is we are allowing people to call themselves and identify themselves as pro-Black or conscious when they are not, and then allowing them into these spaces to cause disharmony. Okay, I'll use my 22nd birthday party as a prime example. Pretty much everyone who was at my birthday kickback, it was a kickback, was pro-Black and conscious. I had a sister come through. I did not know that she was a Moor, and she came through with her husband, who was also a Moor. And now, mind you, we're building, we're having productive conversation. We also just being young and, doing young shit. We got our trees, we got our fruit, we're all vibing. Everybody's on the same level, same frequency. Things are going nice and smooth. And then the Moors who were in the room decided to start trying to push their ideologies on us. Everybody else in the room was like, nah, there's no way in hell we can fuck with that shit. It's retarded. And the whole big old, it started off as a cool kickback or whatever, and the disharmony came when these people who believe in different things, have different goals and whatnot, came into our space under the guise that they're on the same, frequency, that they're thinking the same thing, that they're on this united front, when really they have their own agendas and things and stuff going on that they believe in that is completely different from what's already been established over here. And thus making it anti-progressive. We stopped talking about the build things that we were trying to build, and then it became a debate on who's actually retarded here, which it really wasn't much of a debate, but it's literally anti-progressive to include people who do not have the same visions, goals, and building blocks with you into your platforms, into your spaces, into your groups, if ultimately they do not have those same visions, goals, and ideologies. That's just common sense. So that's why I have to stress it to us that we have to stop. Those people really with the shit, us RBG waving, Pan-African, African loving, Black love, pride and power having type teas, us out here really on that shit. We cannot continue to allow non-pro-Black, non-conscious people to identify as pro-Black and conscious. And we have to check them and let them know that you're not welcome in the space. Because in order to welcome them into the space and all this, we got all this propaganda going around, Moors, Hebrew Israelites, NOI, conscious, this and that. I don't care what you are. We got to just come together. No, You will never get anywhere if you're including people who are anti-progressive to what you got going on. It's just, you're never going to get anywhere. It's stupid to think so. We've tried this stuff. We've taken it outside of blackness and tried to include other minorities into our space. And every other minority has their own agenda, has their own means, has their own things that they're trying to do, this, that, and the third. And ours always ends up taking the back seat. And we always get left where? Nowhere. It does not work. We have to start drawing lines. Like I mentioned Harriet Tubman earlier. She's one of my favorite examples. Her and Winnie Mandela, and I will mention them time and time again. Simply because Harriet Tubman understood, I'm here literally trying to free black slaves, okay? This woman has risked her life time over, time again, not once, not twice, but several times to free thousands of black people. You know, so we can't ever say, no one can ever say, oh, Harriet Tubman wasn't here for black people. Fuck you mean. She's proved it. She definitely is, or definitely was. And I really do hope that some of her warrior spirit blood, some way, shape, or form is in my veins. Because I feel it, though. I feel it. But you know what Harriet Tubman knew? Harriet Tubman understood that even though I'm here to free black people, not all black people are still black people. She had to kill her own husband because that one nigga threatened or decided that he would rather be in slavery than to be free with his life. In letting him go back, compromised the entire mission to save all the rest of the African people that she ended up leading toward a closer to the idea of freedom at that time. But if we were to hold Harriet Tubman to the idea that, oh, well, if you're here for all black people, then you can't kill your husband, then all them niggas that she would have freed would have never been free. She would have been caught and captured and killed, type T's, woo-doo, blocky-blue, the list goes on. So, in order to truly be pro-black and conscious, we also have to have that warrior spirit and that mentality of whatever's best for the united whole is what we got to do. What's best for African people is to liberate ourselves and get to the space and place where we can finally have a successful revolution and work towards our independence, self-sustainability, and basically take back all of our take back everything that's ours and whatnot. And allowing religious people under the guise and the myth of being conscious into our spaces is counterproductive to that, because in their heads, that's not what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to wait on Jesus and God and his angels to come back and do it for us, and then just suck it up and talk shit in the meantime. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap that up for my YouTube video. For the YouTube video, this is a lot longer than most of my videos are, but if you've lasted this long, you realize that I'm saying real shit, I'm saying good shit. I'm going to continue the discussion here on my IG Live, but I'm going to close out my Instagram real quick with saying major points to take away. Stop allowing non-conscious pro-black people to identify as pro-black and conscious. If you are really with the shits, then you will not let that happen in your space. And then also, Moors, Hebrew Israelites, and NOI are not conscious. They are religious people under the guise of consciousness, and they also are not pro-black because their religions inhibit them from being able to be pro-black. So I'm gonna wrap that up for my YouTube. Just remember, y'all, black love, black pride, black power. You have to know yourself, to love your people. Oh, and don't get mad, get right. Peace.